The 1st Infantry Group, the 35th, 36th and 38th Infantry Battalions fought in what has been described as peace enforcement actions. This was war fighting. For 61 years, the story of the 1st Infantry Group has received little attention, and we could say the same about the 38th Infantry Battalion. There was an article written by the group commander, Lieutenant Colonel John C. O'Donovan, and this was published in Cussendor magazine in the early 1960s. This was later republished in February of 2017. Other than this article and the unit history, there is no account of the courage, the soldierly conduct, the sacrifice made to defend one of the key installations in the Congo against superior opposition. This afternoon, I want to speak about the 1-inch group and what, in my opinion, was a remarkable 6 months tour of duty. The 1st Infantry Group was the first unit of its kind. It had a very small headquarters with 10 personnel and 2 infantry company groups, A and B. It had no armour, it had no organic transport. It was the first Defence Force unit to be equipped with the FN rifle and also with the Carl Gustaf 84mm anti-tank recoilless rifle. There was no unit identification pennant or unit flash. The group deployed to the Congo in May 1961 when the United Nations asked Ireland for additional personnel. Initially, the group deployed to Kamina Base in Katanga Province, where they were tasked with working alongside a Nigerian brigade in defence of that massive airbase. They were then redeployed in early June to Kasai Province, with positions at Weni Ditu, Lupata and Kassia. The group returned to Kamina Base at the end of July, and they fought in defence of that base during Operation Martyr from the 13th to the 20th of September 1961. I'd like to take a few minutes and try and describe to you what that base was and the difficulties in defending that. The base was completed by the Belgians in 1951, and United Nations formally took over from the Belgian Air Force on the 3rd of September 1960. The base was in fact 2 separate installations, an Air Force base and an Army base. It covered an immense area of approximately 500 square kilometres. It did not have perimeter fencing. It had a whole heap of installations, a flying school, workshops, repair, maintenance facilities, refueling stations, technical communication centre. They also had quarters for the Belgian troops and for the local Congolese. There was an ammunition depot, administrative headquarters. There were some 2,800 buildings on that particular base. There were 14 roads and a railway line leading through the base. It was absolutely immense. The strength figures as of the 30th of August 1961 at Kamina Base consisted of 434 combat troops. The 1st Infantry Group had 333. There was a Swedish company of 101. There were 82 administrative and logistic staff, and these included signal detachments from Sweden and India, military police from Denmark and Norway, an engineer detachment from Sweden, workshops from Norway, and medical as well as air traffic personnel from various countries. The total UN strength at the base during Operation Martyr was 516. As well as being responsible for the defence of the airfield and the base, the group had to guard Kalubi Power Station and Dam. That was another large installation, 97 kilometres northeast of the base. The opposition, the gendarmerie had a reinforced battalion of 1,800, and they were led by 5 mercenaries, 4 Belgian and 1 French. And they were supported by heavy mortars and 8 Staghound armoured cars. With the very small numbers available to defend that vast amount of terrain, defence was organised by manning strategic strong points around the base and a well-armed mobile reserve. I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about the major events that happened at the base during Operation Martyr. On the 12th of September, the eve of the launch of Operation Martyr, the base was put on full alert and stand to. Intelligence report indicated that an attack was imminent. That did not materialize. On the 14th of September, a reinforced company of gendarmerie, led by 2 mercenaries, supported by armoured cars and mortars, attacked the base 2, at 1600 hours. That area was defended by a Swedish platoon of 29 men, supported by Irish 84 anti-tank weapons and 60 mortar crews. The attack was repulsed, and it is estimated that the attackers suffered 50 casualties. 2 of the gendarmerie and armoured cars were knocked down, and an ammunition truck was destroyed. During the night, the gendarmerie made several attacks for the remainder of daylight and through the night, and these were beaten off on every occasion. On the 15th of September, at 09:30 hours, attacks were mounted against the Camp Farm and Lupula barrier, and they were again repulsed. At this stage, the UN started to reinforce the base. The first element of an additional Swedish company arrived. At 12:40 hours, a Katangan Air Force Fugger Magister jet, armed with cannon and machine guns, dropped bombs on the base. This was the first aerial attack. Attacks continued each day right up to the 18th, with 2 attacks every day, normally early in the morning, and the second attack at midday. On the 16th of September, 2 Ferret Scout cars from the Malayan contingent arrived. The Fugger jet attacked DC-3 in flight from the base. This aircraft was carrying casualties from previous attacks from Kamina to Leopoldville. And although the aircraft was hit, the pilot managed to successfully complete the flight. During the evening, the balance of the reinforcing Swedish company arrived, and also another company from the Indian Jat Battalion arrived. On the 17th of September, the Fugger again attacked and destroyed a DC-4 aircraft on the ground. And in that attack, 2 Swedish UN peacekeepers were injured. They were working on an aircraft outside a hangar. At this stage, food ran out from the garrison at Kalubi power station. On the 18th, the Fugger again bombed the base. And other than that, sporadic fighting still continues from ground forces. On the 19th of September, ground forces again engaged a flight, an aircraft taking off from the base. On the night of the 19th, 20th of September, the Kalubi power station garrison of some 55 personnel from the B Company were being cut off when the gendarmerie blocked and mined the road. They were evacuated by 2 helicopters manned by 2 very brave Swedish crews. Each crew carried 4 passengers at a time. A rear guard of 1 officer and 7 men destroyed all stores and equipment before taking off. As that airlift was underway, the helicopters came under fire from ground forces. On the 20th of September, the situation across Katanga province was quieter than usual. At midnight on the 20th, a ceasefire agreement was signed by the United Nations emissary Mahmoud Kiari and President Chombe at Ndola in northern Rhodesia, and this came into effect. On the 10th of October, the 1st Infantry Group started to redeploy to Ninzio, northeast of Katanga province. And while at that station, the group commander decided to erect a cross to the victims of the Niemba ambush who perished on the 8th of November 1960. A cross was constructed in cement by Sergeant William McLaughlin, who was with the engineer section, and this was inscribed by a private Patrick Appleby. And this was erected on the 5th of November. Rotation home commenced on the 18th of November and was completed by the 27th of November. Before I conclude, I'd like to give some statistics on the whole operation in the Congo. 26 Defence Force personnel died in the Congo. A total of 5,273 individuals served in the Congo in that period. And that number All the more remarkable when you look at the strength across the Defence Forces in September 1960 was 8,882. I'm coming to the end, and I want to quote an article from that article that was written by Lieutenant Colonel O'Donovan and published in Uncustler magazine. And part of that last paragraph has the following: while giving all credit to the 35th Infantry Battalion for the magnificent job they did in Elizabethville, the men of 1-inch Group felt that they also deserved credit for the work they had done and the hardships they had endured in the Congo, spending their entire service stationed near small towns without shops or modern amenities, confined to their camps because all their deployments were in trouble spots. Credit they certainly deserve in the light of the above story. 61 years later, I'm standing here in front of you and I'm telling the story of the 1st Infantry Group, but it's not my story to tell. You, the veterans of 1st Infantry Group, 61 years ago, you were asked, and it was a big ask, and you stood up and you measured up. Today, I'm going to ask something of you. I'd ask you to consider writing your memoirs or engaging with military archives, because the story of the 1st Infantry Group is a huge part of the history of the Defence Forces. Thank you.